The big breaking news on Monday is that Langston Love, 3-year player, 3-year impact player at Baylor, is hitting the transfer portal in a huge blow to Scott Drew's 2025-26 team. There was some speculation about this from fans. There were obviously rumors that came out during the year about Langston Love, his injury history, whether he could play or not, whether he was cleared to play, NIL stuff. There was all kinds of buzz, and Langston did not let it bother him. He came back into the fold and was a huge impact player for Baylor down the stretch. That was like the one thing that didn't go wrong down the stretch, was that Langston Love didn't get hurt again. You know, he was held out in the Big 12 tournament, and then he came in and put together 2 pretty good performances in the NCAA tournament, and was a big reason why they knocked off Mississippi State in the first round. But Langston Love, he's going to find a new team. He is entering the portal. It's been an interesting career for Love at Baylor, right? He came in as, you know, a big-time high school recruit coming out of Texas, and then I believe at Montverde, was a big-time high-volume scorer, blew out his ACL his first year, and that was a big loss for Baylor. I think they were expecting him to contribute right away, and when he is on the floor, he is actually a throwback to what Scott Drew's teams looked like 8 or 10 years ago, right? He's not the most skilled player in the world. He's probably more skilled than people give him credit for. But he's big. He plays bigger than he is. He's a physical player. He can get after it at both ends of the floor. He can score inside and outside. Like that to me sounds a lot like kind of the Baylor players of yesteryear. I'm thinking of King McClure, Al Freeman, even Terry Maston, who played a different position, right? Sounds a lot like those guys. Ish Wainwright, even though Wainwright, different position, bigger guy, but had all of those traits. And that's, again, a huge blow to the team next year, because he was one of the few guys that was coming back and that's been in this program for a couple of years, who's kind of been in the trenches, been through the battles. And we're starting to see a lot of this in the transfer portal, both in football and basketball, of guys who are like, you know, and I'm guessing that Langston is in this field of no hard feelings. I've kind of run my course here. I'm going to go try and be a part of something somewhere else while I finish my college career. You know, I think we have seen that, you know, versus what LJ Cryer was doing of, I want to go somewhere else. I don't want to be here anymore. I want to go and play a different position. I want to go play for a different coach, that kind of thing. I think Langston is more the former case than the latter. And I think there is going to be, you know, an instant, like a thought for Baylor fans looking back, that he just never really panned out to what he could have been. And that is mostly due to injury. Like he was a guy averaging double figures last year off the bench before he got hurt in early January. And that would have been a huge lift for Baylor, and specifically that team in 23-24, which absolutely looked like one that could make a deep run. He was shooting 48% from 3 in 23-24, 11 points a game, and wasn't starting. Like, he was such a big impact guy for them. And again, he never plays. The last 2 years, he does not play more than 25 games. He did play 30 in 22-23, but was just kind of easing himself back into things for most of that year. And in the 20 games this year, 9 points a game, over an assist per game, almost 3 rebounds, shot it well at 39%, not great, but fit right in with this team. And again, he's a guy who you now have to replace his leadership, the intangible stuff, not just the points and the rebounds, but the fact that he's been in this locker room and played for this coaching staff for the last couple of years. Because you look at the situation and what it is for Baylor and who they're bringing back, now in the not coming back pile that are definites, you've got Norchad Omier, Jeremy Roach, Jaden Nunn, VJ Edgecombe, Jalen Celestine, and Langston Love. That's a lot to replace. That's even worse than last year. And the rest of the rotation guys that could be coming back, you would think Josh O would, definitely. You would think Marino Dubravcic would, obviously. And then Rob Wright, I think we're hopeful, but that's a question mark. And if you even include this guy as a rotation guy, Jason Asamoah is a question mark. So once again, we're doing this song and dance of, hey, you've got to replace, 4 of your 5 starters, or in this case, for some of your rotations, all 5 starters. That's where you miss Langston Love the most. Not just a guy who can get hot quickly off the bench, not just a guy who can guard a couple of different positions, but a guy who's had experience with this team and would have been a crucial part of integrating, these new guys into the team and into the Baylor basketball culture. But honestly, maybe that's a reason he's looking to do something else. He sees how much they have to replace this year, kind of how things went in the locker room and on the floor this year. And he might be thinking, you know what? I have a chance to go and play a place somewhere else for a year that could be contending for a conference championship and a Final Four. And he might be saying, I don't know if that's the case at Baylor. That's not a report. That's purely speculation. But that's a tough loss for Baylor. But it is a weird career to look back on, much like LJ Cryer's is for different reasons, because you think of what could have been. And you think from Baylor's standpoint, like, how much were you going to count on him next year? Like, how many games were you penciling him in for? Because through no fault of his own, there's always something. There's always something up with him. The difference between Langston Love and Marcus Smart was Marcus Smart didn't start getting hurt until he played in the NBA. Both those guys have a similar skill set. They play the game a similar way. They have one speed. They play it all out. And unfortunately, it's led to some injuries for Langston Love. But certainly wishing him the best. He's a guy who's never had a bad word to say about Baylor yet. So wishing him the best. But that's a tough loss in day one of the offseason for Scott Drew, because the challenge for next year's roster was daunting already. And it gets even more daunting with Langston Love not being a part of that, both on the court and in the locker room. Interested to see where he lands. But let me know what you guys think about this loss. Let me know in the comments below. Is this a huge one for Baylor next year? Were you not counting on him very much anyway for next year? And what does Baylor need to look at in the transfer portal? Because we're going to be talking positions. We're going to be talking names in the coming days. So let me know in the comments below. Be sure to like and subscribe. We're bringing you exclusive Baylor content, exclusively Baylor content, Baylor sports content every day on YouTube and then wherever you get your podcasts. Thank you for making it to the end of the video, and thank you for making the Locked On Podcast Network part of your daily routine. We have got you covered with the most Baylor Bears athletics coverage of any outlet that's not directly tied into Baylor University. So if you want more of that, be sure to like and subscribe. Ring that notification bell to get notified every time we're dropping a video here on YouTube or wherever you get your podcasts. Thanks, and sick 'em.